Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Garrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado.
And Williamsville, New York.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 73 for Friday, January 7th, 2022, our first episode of 2022. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring a guide to producing silage, we are not going to be much help. Obviously, I can't even pronounce the word correctly. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from Stats Track and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And I would say he's kind of a big deal. I was going to make a pickle pun and say he's kind of a big deal, but I digress. I'm moving on.
No debate.
As always, thank you all for tuning in with us. We appreciate it.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the matchups of the upcoming weekend for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games and are going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out. So you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes learning about subclasses of Australian work visas. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Absolutely. That is no Djokovic right there. All right. Well, would you look at that? We have another AHL trade, or at least on one side of things, because Alex Nylander being acquired by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm sure you're ecstatic, Sean, as a Pens fan. But yes, the Blackhawks have picked up Sam Lafferty, who actually hasn't played in the AHL. He's played in the NHL the past 3 seasons. So this is kind of halfway an AHL trade. Not sure how much of it is exactly. But yeah, like I mentioned, only Nylander's played in the AHL this season, or at least I was alluding to that with the Lafferty, right? Yes, Lafferty. I want to say Rafferty, like the singer from the 70s. But anyway, Sean, very quickly, what are your thoughts on both of these guys?
I mean, the Penguins really do love a good reclamation project. Justin Schultz, Alex Galchenyuk, Mike Matheson, Kasperi Kapanen, Jack Johnson, Cody Ceci, Erica Branson, Derek Brassard. The list can really go on for quite some time. They really just can't. Yeah, they really just can't help themselves. So here we are again. Although I'm not 100% sure that was the intent there. I have the sneaking suspicion that they plan to waive Sam Lafferty to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And instead of losing him for free, they traded him for someone they didn't have to mess with waivers to get to Wilkes-Barre Scranton, who maybe could be a useful piece in the future. You did say quickly, so let's get to it here. Nylander has talent. He has good puck skills. He can make high-end plays with his offensive vision. He can beat NHL goalies from mid-range with his wrist shot. His problem is that he's not an NHL level skater. And while he's listed at 6'1", 192, pretty common NHL hockey player size, he cannot play through contact and avoids physicality most of the time. That makes him easy to push to the outside and greatly limits his effectiveness. He's also a defensive black hole and goes unplugged controller at an almost alarming rate. If you're wondering how he managed to score 26 points in 65 NHL games in 1920, it's if he's got all, these can't skate, can't be physical kind of problems, playing with Saad, Taves, and Kane for half your ice time sure helps. I mean, the question is now, can the Penguins get more out of him than Buffalo or Chicago did? I mean, if the Penguins can get Henry Yokoharu out of him, I think that's a big win. But I think this reclamation project is more likely going to end up in the Alex Galchenyuk department than the Justin Schultz department. But, as always, there's reason for optimism. On the other side, Sam Lafferty is basically the exact same size as Nylander, 6'1", 195, according to NHL.com, and yet is somehow able to play through contact and be physical. He definitely doesn't have the offensive skill set Nylander does, but he's a capable-ish NHL fourth line defensive kind of player who can play energy line, penalty kill kind of minutes. He's not a great skater either, but he's probably straight line speed faster than Nylander. In short, this is a trade of a guy who isn't a good skater and won't give you much offense, but can play defense and is physical, for a guy who isn't a good skater and won't give you any defense or physicality, but has potential on offense.
To compare real quick with the AHL trade that we discussed last episode, the Nolan Stevens and Will Bitton trade, I guess this is, obviously a step above, because those guys were kind of being generous here, second line AHL, just for general, description of that trade. What would you make of this trade? Is there a clear winner or loser?
I mean, in terms of who got the better player right now that could play in the NHL and be competent, I would say probably the team that got Sam Lafferty. Like, he's proven that he can play in the NHL, even if it's in, fourth line minutes in a defensive kind of role. That's not nothing. Whereas Nylander, he's
on Wilkes-Barre Scranton right now.
Yeah,
they already assigned him there.
A guy who struggles to drive the middle lane in the AHL. If Pittsburgh can turn this into a good reclamation project like they have for others in the past, there's reason that they will win this trade. But for right now, as it stands, I mean, I guess Chicago, because they got the marginally more useful player, but I think there's at least a chance that Pittsburgh can squeak out a W in this trade if they can turn Nylander into something useful, or not into the best version of Nylander, but into another player that's useful. Like, it's already happened twice that Nylander's been traded for basically a better player. So why not make the hat trick complete here? But I would say the Blackhawks won this trade. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Question mark?
Yeah, I feel like this was not one that was just like, oh yeah, we knew day one the team, what team A won this trade. I don't think that's the case here. It's kind of like the last trade we talked about. We're like, Bitton has more upside, but Stevens is more of a known quantity. Bitton didn't really fit in with the Wild. Stevens probably will a little bit better. This is a little bit more of, well, it's another piece who can maybe produce offense in Wilkes-Barre Scranton versus a guy who can defend and play penalty kill minutes in Chicago at best. So,
sorry, I know I said quickly, but I had to know. I mean, this is
that's fair.
Yeah, second trade of of an AHL, quality, or an AHL caliber, somewhat. Like I said, a little bit up a level on this one. But let's get to our weekend preview. We haven't really done this in a while because of the holidays and the Christmas/holiday special, the New Year's special, and
massive player movements and the what games are going to get canceled now. And we're still kind of doing that, but we committed to the bit here. We're going to do a weekend preview.
Yes, we are. And speaking of that, we were going to cover Lehigh Valley and Providence and their weekend series in the Atlantic Division this weekend.
Yeah, we were going to talk Tuukka Rask, what we expect from him given a serious hip injury, how the Phantoms are getting by with 9 forwards and 8 defensemen. It was like we had pretty good plans for that, but
yeah, literally the AHL canceled that series due to COVID-19 league protocols and restrictions affecting Lehigh Valley. About an hour before we started recording, I was the one to break the bad news to Shawnee over there, and that's how it goes. It thankfully, we didn't get too far in the weeds in regards to, that weekend preview, but we weren't really able to scramble fast and prepare another Atlantic Division Series weekend preview. That was a lot of words, but yeah, the Atlantic Series preview is postponed and rescheduled for next Thursday. So we're gonna scrap that. Unfortunately, it's just a time issue, but we are still going to give you 3 divisions, 3 matchups in each division that are left. And the first, of course, is going to be the North Division and the Utica Comets. And oh my, the Mighty are not fallen per se, but they are starting to slip up a little bit. 2-4 over the last 6 games, losing to Bridgeport, Rochester, Lehigh Valley, and Toronto, as well as a close shave in Cleveland. Sean, what's been going on with this Utica team that was setting records, has set the AHL all-time league record for win streak in a season?
I mean, we knew Utica would hit some rough patches eventually. We said that they were very good, but this was not sustainable. And shockingly, some of that is coming to them. In terms of those games, Bridgeport was a bit fresher and was just the better team in that game. Utica got into some penalty trouble in the second, and that killed a lot of their momentum, but they managed to at least sneak into overtime off a Riley Walsh point shot. But they were bound to have some bad games and have some bad bounces go against them. I would call that Bridgeport game one of them. They got into PK trouble again in Rochester, and we talked about how taking a bunch of penalties relative to how many they drew would be a cause for future concern, and especially against a team like Rochester where you can't play games with that power play. And they did, and they got burned. Lehigh Valley and Toronto, I think you can just say were a combination of sloppy defensive efforts and goaltender Merrick's Mittens showing that he's a league average goaltender in the ECHL because, well, he's a league average goaltender in the league below the AHL. While Utica's only played 6 games since December 4th, they've at least had a reasonable facsimile of their usual roster up front, but losing both Nico Dawes and Akira Schmid to injury and New Jersey is a real drag on the team as a whole. While the Comets have been reasonably good in terms of defensive play, they knew that they were able to be fast and loose at times because they had a goalie between the pipes they trusted could cover for them more often than not. Now they have a middling ECHLer and a guy who was an assistant JV hockey coach for a prep school in New Jersey as their 1-2. So yeah, some adjustments on defense are going to be necessary until the Comets can either get a suitable goalie signed or get Dawes healthy or Schmidt or John Gillies from New Jersey. The race is on for one of those, but what they have now between the pipes is clearly going to lead to some more not favorable results, I think.
I wonder what Jeremy Brodeur's up to these days. I'm kidding.
That's
Sean is speechless. That's a rare occurrence around here.
I knew you were gonna go there. I was just hoping that you would.
My apologies. Let's stop talking about goaltenders and start talking about individual skaters, as it were. So there has been a big step forward for Riley Walsh this season. 18 points in 23 games, 1.76 point share, good for the 95th percentile amongst forwards this season. That is among forwards. I meant defensemen. My apologies. Sean and I are both recovering from COVID booster shots today, so forgive us if we're a little foggy in the brain. We're both not feeling too hot. So 95th percentile amongst defensemen. That is a first pairing D-man grade this season. Last season, Walsh had 15 points in 33 games, 1.07 point share. That was good for the 64th percentile and a second pairing defenseman grade. Obviously, the numbers speak on improvement. That was a cross between improvement and approval. Wow. Or approval. Wow. Okay. So Sean, besides my words not functioning tonight, what has been the big step forward for Mr. Riley Walsh?
I mean, well, for starters, his skating has improved a lot. He showed flashes of some wheels last year, but they've been more on display this season. I think the other big proponent, though, has got to be puck management. He came out last season and made a lot of turnovers on breakout passes in own end and just showed the game was moving too fast for him. And he wasn't ready for that level yet, but there wasn't really anywhere else they could send him. So he kind of had to figure it out on his own and grind out crappy mistakes, which sucks, but he started to find his game more and more as the season went on, but he's really turned a corner in that aspect this season. He's learned more of when to take risks, when to make safe plays, and is better at processing forechecks and pressure than he was last season by a country mile. That last one I cannot emphasize enough. He, like basically every other defenseman for the Devils last season, was rarely able to diagnose and evade pressure and get the puck up ice. While I don't think he'll ever be a defensively solid player in his own end, he's taken steps forward with his game in the D zone this season and looks mostly competent out there. And while he's listed at 185 pounds, which is fine, I think some more muscle would do him some good and enable him to win some more battles along the boards, at the net front, those kinds of places. He won't be able to do that in season. That's something that's an off-season project for him, but I think it might not be a bad idea for him to take this off season, hire a trainer, and focus on, trying to add some more muscle to the frame. Like I said, 185 pounds is fine. That's a perfectly acceptable hockey size. But given, his defensive zone play is on the under physical end, and I think that would be something that could help add a little bit of a different element to his game in his own end. I think that would be something that he should focus on. But a lot of the small things that were puck moving related, risk management related, he's done a much better job of, and has shown to be able to process the game at a level that will probably get him in NHL games at some point soon.
Covered the team, covered the individual skaters. Let's talk keys to the weekend. And I did forget to mention at the top of this segment that Friday at 7 p.m. local time, Utica will be facing off against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Saturday at 7 p.m. local time against Hartford. So both of these games at home in Utica. Sean, what are some keys for the Comets to start getting the train back on track and not losing 2/3 of your games?
I mean, I'm going to assume, as we are for pretty much all of these, that the roster we see now is more or less going to be the roster that they get for these games, which means mostly good things, but it's going to come down to who's in net for Utica. New Jersey really hasn't hurt the Comets' depth too much in their forwards or defense, but if Merrick Mittens and whatever random goaltender they conjure up are who's taking the crease for them this weekend, they're going to need to be sure-handed in front of those guys because, as we've seen, they're not very good. They're going to need to make sure they defend home plate really well, clear rebounds, as well as make safe plays out of the zone. That may lead to a less fun, less fast-paced, less north-south style game if they have to kind of play it safe with short support and make quick passes. And I understand that that's not as fun to watch. Believe me, I enjoy a fast-paced, up-and-down boat race like anyone else. But from a coach's perspective, if you know that you can't rely on your goalie to make big boy saves, then you need to make sure you limit the opportunities for those to happen to him. So that's going to be their big key this weekend is they're playing their own zone, making clean zone exits, and making sure that they put as little pressure on Mittens and guy from crowd number 3 that they have.
Man, very much, hopefully not appearing in this game. Guy number 3, JV coach. Yeah.
I'm imagining that no matter what happens, unless Merrick Mittens is literally, torn 2 ACLs and MCL and stabbed in the throat, he's going to stay in for no matter how many goals he lets up. But, we'll see. Like I said, the Devils are carrying, as far as I can tell, 3 healthy goalies right now. So
guess you don't need to give a phone call to Providence and see what Jeremy Brodeur is doing.
Stop. No, you never need to do that. That is not necessary ever.
It's time for picks. Let's move on to picks for this. Like I said, Baby Pens on Friday at 7, Wolfpack at 7 on Saturday. I am, I'm kind of bullish on the addition of Nylander to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Why not pick the Baby Pens on Friday? But Utica finally riding the ship on Saturday against Hartford. Sean, what say you?
I want to pick Hartford. I really want to pick Hartford in this game, but I can't because literally everyone that's important in Hartford is currently in NYC. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking the Utica sweep. I obviously have never at any point believed in Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and I don't really think Alex Nylander moves the needle that much for me. Hartford is an AHL team with Keith Kincaid backing them. So as much as I believe in the Blockade's ability to steal a game here and there, Utica's too good up front for that to be the difference. So I'm taking Utica in both. The model has Utica as a 55.4% favorite over Wilkes-Barre Scranton and 57.5% favorite over Hartford. And it knows that Merrick Mittens is the only goaltender there. So
wow. And it's still predicting Utica as 5 and 7.5 point favorites, or 5.5 and 7.5 point favorites. So, yep. Okay. All right.
Well, we're going to take a break here. And after the break, we will get to the Chicago Wolves. If you're just here for the Utica Comets, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about these games, assuming that they happen. Also, make sure you check us out on social media. Links to all our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Figure out the spelling of the Calder Farmstead on your own time. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
Okay, 1 down, 2 to go in our weekend preview series. And of course, we got to talk about, as the sweater that Sean is donning currently, the Chicago Wolves. They've got 3 games in 3 days this weekend. Friday, 7 p.m. at Rockford at the BMO Center there in Illinois, and Saturday, 7 p.m. versus Iowa, coming back to Rosemont, Illinois, to host them at home. And then Sunday at 3 p.m. against Cleveland. So they've got the road game against Rockford. They head back home for Iowa and Cleveland on Saturday and Sunday. Sean, the Wolves have won 12 straight games. They won in many different fashions as well. 8-4 boat races, third period miracle comebacks, 3-2 low event snooze fests, parades to the penalty box, one-sided ass beatings. I mean, they've really been in a diverse play style of games and come out on the top in all of them really since, well, November 18th. I mean, like I said, 12 games in a row, and they have had some game cancellations, to start the year and to end 2021. But Sean, has there been anything that you've seen that Chicago has done consistently in all of this?
They have beaten the crap out of teams in third periods. Whatever Coach Warsofsky is saying during the second intermission, it's working. I don't know what he's saying to them, if he's saying anything. But CC, guess how many 5-on-5 goals the Chicago Wolves have allowed in the third period of those 12 games?
I'm going to say 2.
0. They have allowed 0 5-on-5 goals in third periods in this winning streak.
Wow.
They've scored 12 5-on-5 third period goals. Even more impressive is how quickly they've scored to start the third. 5 of those 12 goals are in the first 3 minutes of the third period. They're also controlling 55% of the shots of from the home plate area in the third period in those 12 games. And in some cases, they're controlling them 12-2, 13-1. They are owning the third period. And it's funny, if you look at goal differential for the third period across the league, 4 of the top 7 teams in the AHL are in the top 5 in goal differential in the third period. That is what good teams do, or what really bad teams do who are already in garbage time and they put in, 1 or 2 meaningless goals. But that's clearly not what's happening here in Chicago. Chicago has stamped the third period as belonging to it, and that's absolutely powered them through what, as you described, boat races, miracle comebacks, low event snooze fests, the works, basically. They've run the gamut of ways in which you can play a hockey game and describe it in 2 words, except that they're crushing teams in the third period for the most part. So that would be the one thing I've said that they have in common through all of this. And whatever Coach Warsofsky is doing in the second intermission, maybe try it in the first, but also keep doing it.
I mean, and that's scary. Like, that's what separates the good teams from the great teams, is those that can A, string together a winning streak, but B, also win these random ass games and style of games like they're doing. And it's amazing to me just how, in spite of all this inconsistency and all this shifting landscape with taxi squads getting reinstituted on December 26th and all that, the Wolves are adapting. And they are becoming for lack of a better term, an apex predator in the Western Conference. And don't be surprised if you see him in the Western Conference final, if not the Calder Cup final. I almost said Kelly Cup final. My ECHL's days were coming back to me. But
no, only one AHL team still has a Kelly Cup, but that's a different story. I will say too, like, they've managed to, I remember that game they won 1-0 against Milwaukee, which was literally a skeleton crew. Like, if I had to pick a game on there, I was like, oh, the one where like they have 2 AHL players on the roster going up against another team that maybe had 3 AHL players in the roster. Like, that's the one they're going to lose. And nope, somehow they pulled out a 1-0 game that I hope everyone drank away the memory of.
Oh, I tell you, let's move on from how good the team has been, because there has been, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock and not been paying attention to AHL hockey, there's been one guy that it's a debatable one for you, Sean, I know, but if the AHL season ended today, the guy that's played 23 games, 34 points, almost at a 1.5 point per game clip, 12 goals, 22 assists. We're talking about centerman Andrew Podorowski. Is he the MVP thus far this season? Or if the AHL season ended today.
I will always and forever hate the MVP awards and the debate around them. It's
Sure.
one of the reasons we do not do an MVP award, but do best forward, best defenseman, and best goaltender. Personally, I hate that goaltenders aren't in the MVP conversations, because when you take a team that's really good and you give them below average goaltending, like what we just saw Utica do, suddenly you realize how important that quality goaltender was. I mean, is Grand Rapids third in the Central without Calvin Pickard playing out of his mind? Is Rockford anywhere but the basement without Arvid Soderblom? But in the shut up and answer the question portion of the show, it's hard to say any other forward or defenseman has been more valuable in the total body of their work. Like, Scott Perunovich is probably more valuable when he was there, but you also have to show up to work, and he's been at another job. So the Wolves are very, very good, but Paul Dorowski carries that team. As you said, played 23 games for the Wolves, scoring 34 points. He hasn't scored a point in 7 of those 23 games. The Wolves are 2-5 in games in which he does not score. They are 14-2 in games in which he has at least 1 point. And yes, Nason and CJ Smith are having great seasons as well, but those are his wingers. And those are his wingers for the most part. And a rising tide raises all boats. CJ Smith is on pace to break his best AHL season by 14 points. Stefan Nason is on pace to break his best AHL season by 35. The three of them have great chemistry, but let's be completely clear here. Paul Dorowski is the one driving the bus. So if the season were to end today, he's very much in my conversation and on my ballot for MVP. Is he at the top? Probably. But it's close. Like, in my mind, it's close, but I also recognize that goaltenders are stupid valuable. And like Akira Schmid and Calvin Pickard and Arvid Soderblom belong in that conversation, as does Jack Quinn and maybe JJ Peterka and Michael Marish. Like, a lot of teams where it's like, if you take those guys off, what does the rest become? I think Podorowski has probably got the best case in that point, but I wouldn't say he's just running away with it.
I would say those stats that you presented, those, Sean, the 2-5 in games where he doesn't get on the scoreboard, and the 14-2 in games that he does, to be the most valuable player on the team. Granted, yes, he is at the top of the AHL point standings, which is something that you and I share. It's not an automatic qualifier to be the MVP in this league. You know, it's lazy voting when, you know, guys that cover the AHL or cover the teams in the AHL just take a look at the standings and maybe not dig into the research as much as you and I do. But yeah, this is a rare instance, or maybe not rare, but an uncommon instance where the guy at the top of the standings may very well have the best chance because of what you said there. Like, literally, you take this guy from the team and, you know, you put him in Carolina for a game or two, or put him on the taxi squad, then the Wolves are going to suffer.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. They've had Podorowski got the call up and they played, I think, the last 3 or 4 without him, and they've still been fine. Like, they are still a very good team, but they aren't the same team when he's not on the ice. So,
right. Well, that said, keys to the weekend for Chicago. Again, 3 games in 3 days. And they've had those game cancellations. So what say you in regards to the Wolves and how they can emerge with 2, maybe even 3 victories this weekend?
I mean, you've won 12 straight games. What advice am I supposed to give them? Go do that hockey. I'm kidding. I have at least one. You're going to need to pace yourself, Chicago. Normally, I'm someone who puts their foot on the gas and will only press further, never less. Chicago may want to pull it back a little bit. They have a 3-3 and have been away from, you know, game action since December 17th. That's 5 days before. No, it's more days than that. 8 days, some number of days before Christmas.
8.
Yep. 8 math. I was told there would be no math. Rockford has been basically off the same stretch, but Iowa hasn't, and Cleveland will also be in a 3-3. So I imagine the conditioning for the Wolves maybe took a hit over the holidays. I think that's very fair. But you can't blow all your energy Friday night if you're up 4-1, or Saturday if you're up 4-1 or whatever. Like, need to conserve your energy a little bit. Maybe dial it back if it's, you know, we're in garbage time already. There's no need to strain yourself, because you want to make sure you still have energy for Sunday so you don't get run out of the house by a Monsters team that just isn't very good.
Well, with that said, let's go to the picks. And I tell you, going first, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really can't see. I mean, Iowa, yeah, they split, the Wednesday before New Year's and the New Year's Eve with Colorado, but I really can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to go with a Chicago sweep, and they're going to bump that win streak to 15. And I'm going to say, I know the time off is going to do them good. And yeah, they're going to use it to heal up as opposed to, rest or rust. That's the common, thing back and forth. But yeah, I'm going to, as crazy as it sounds, I'm going to say Chicago sweep on the weekend.
I have that weird thought that Iowa is going to get guys back, like just enough guys back in town to make a difference. So I'm going to take Iowa on that hope, because right now they're by no means the better team with the roster as it stands right now. But I have that weird feeling that like Boldy and Rossi and like one or two other guys are going to make the trip back. Maybe we see a Derek Barabo miracle, but like I have that feeling. It's a gut feeling that the model does not share with me at all. But I'm going to take Iowa in that game and then Chicago in the rest.
And Boldy just scored his first NHL goal this evening while we've been recording here on Thursday the 6th. So I think Minnesota might hang on to him for the foreseeable future. I'm just saying.
I've how many times have we said like, oh, that guy's not coming back, and then 2 days later, oh shit, there he is. Like it happens all the time. So I can see a world in which they congrats on your first NHL goal. Here's the puck, smile. All right, here's your bus ticket back to like. It happens all the time. It's incredibly dumb, but here we are.
Head on back to Des Moines. The model.
The model has Chicago as a favorite in all three of them by varying degrees. 58.4% over Rockford, 61% over Iowa, 55.9% favorite over Cleveland.
Wow, you are picking against the model. Holy smokes.
I'm trying to think that I know a thing that the model doesn't about what's going to be on that Iowa roster. That is my only reason. That is it.
Sure.
I will hold steadfast. If Iowa ices that same roster that they have in town right now, they're toast. I'll take Chicago on the puck line, -1.5.
All righty.
All right. We are going to take a break here. After the break, we will go to the Best Coast and talk Tucson and Colorado. If you're just here for Chicago, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back on Tuesday to see how wrong I was about Iowa's game. Also, make sure you check us out on social media. Links to our social media as well as our YouTube channel and popular podcast links can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
All right, our third and final series preview for the weekend coming up on, Friday the 7th, Saturday the 8th, and Sunday the 9th of January 2021 or 22. Yeah, get used to that. It's going to happen a few weeks into this year. But Tucson versus Colorado. Tucson is actually hosting the Colorado Eagles on Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 4 p.m. there at the community center, or I'm forgetting the name of the Tucson arena where they make the goalie go sit in the corner.
I'm pretty sure it's just the Tucson Convention Center.
Convention Center, not community center. That makes it sound like a small amphitheater or something like that. So
no, Tucson Convention Center.
Okay. So I wasn't too far off. So hey, let's talk Roadrunners. Tucson is going from having almost 2.5 weeks off to playing 4 games in 6 days. They'll be the less rusty team rather than Colorado, but they're also going to be a more exhausted one. They've also gone 3-4 in their last 7 games, which are all against the top 3 teams in the Pacific Division. They got 7 of 14 points and were basically an overtime goal away from being 4-3 in that stretch. So, Sean, what have you thought? Or maybe 4-4, because they're still going to have 4. Well,
no, 4-3.
Yep, switch it back because there's 7 games. You can blame the COVID fog brain, or at least the booster shot fog brain. Anyway, Sean, what have you thought about them during this stretch?
A lot of the same Jekyll and Hyde things we said about them going back to last season. Like, I really would love to have a fresh take on this team. So I'm going to try and come up with one here because I think I at least have something that makes it stand out a little bit differently that separates this from their usual, A or B kind of thing. And that's their starts. A lot of these past few games have felt like they were basically decided in the first period. the Roadrunners either came out ready to play, raring to go, all horned up, or they dig a big hole and maybe scramble at the end to try and make the final score look closer, cover the spread if they can. But, and their stats very much back up what I'm seeing in these, well, once the first period's over, if Tucson is not winning, I can basically shut it off. I already know they lost. They are 8-2 when scoring first in the season so far, 7-1 after leading after the first period, 3-4 when tied after one period, 1-7 trailing after the first period. And you can see that in their play. If they they go into the first intermission and just aren't feeling it, they kind of just stay there until, I guess Jay Verity just screams at them until they, finally get it in gear at the end. But for the most part, they're a team that if they start hot, they stay hot, they win the game. But if they don't, oh, well, it's cool. We'll just take the L. It's fine. And to address that, if I'm, Jay Verity, practices have got to be up tempo in the first 15, 20 minutes that you're on the ice. I want guys, when they get out there for practice, to be ready to do work immediately. And I think that transfers over to a game. I want them to be moving their feet in battles right away as soon as they touch the ice. And if you have that in your mindset, as soon as your steel touches the ice, it's go time. You're conditioned to push the pace early. You're conditioned to be ready the second you get out there. I think that shows up in game days. And I think you'll see better first periods and better games out of Tucson as a result, because it really does seem that if they don't get it done, get out of the gates, at least moving their feet, putting pucks in the net, that they just never catch up. Even if they're 3-4 when tied after a period, that's not terrible, but come on, guys, you couldn't even, be 5-3, 4-3. That's not great. And they really have. They've been tripping over themselves coming out of the gate a bunch of these games. Even in the 7 they played against the top 3 teams in the division, Henderson, Ontario, and Stockton. The games they won the first period, they almost were the 3 games they won. I think they had one game against Henderson where they let Henderson sneak back in, and that was the overtime point that they got. But Henderson had to fight for that point. They at least made Henderson work for it, which, if nothing else, is something you can take away. But that team has got to start better out of the gate.
Let's talk individual skaters here for Tucson. One of the big stabilizing factors that's helped at least get this Roadrunners team into a respectable place has been Victor Soderstrom. What have you seen from him, my good sir?
I mean, he's been a huge factor for them, especially as Jonas Moser went to the Yotes, and he's probably not coming back. But and again, we literally just had this conversation about guys who we say that for, and he'll be back next week. But Soderstrom is basically now the only one on that blue line who, if I'm the coaching staff, really trust to do anything with the puck in an offensive manner besides glassing out. He's running the power play. He's making plays in transition. He's really been everything the Roadrunners needed when they were starting the early season without them. And it's Jesus, why can't they get going? I'm because none of their defensemen can move the puck that aren't named Jonas Moser. And now none of their defensemen can move the puck that aren't Victor Soderstrom, but, well, at least they have Victor Soderstrom. Moser took a while to kind of get going, but I would like to see some work on Soderstrom's defensive awareness, though. There have definitely been some breakdowns and defensive lapses that have happened the last few games that I feel like were very preventable, which is unusual because he's typically spectacular defensively. He's regularly getting great body positioning in front. But a lot of what I saw looked like miscommunication with his D partner or his center, other wings, where someone wasn't sure where they were supposed to be or what they were supposed to do. A couple instances, I think, where his D partner and him were basically standing shoulder to shoulder in the slot. And it's pretty sure that's not how your defensive structure is supposed to look on the whiteboard in the locker room. And that's not entirely shocking given the layoff everyone has had and all the time off that they've had away from the rink with all the COVID protocols and the holiday and everything. A little rust is bound to seep itself in, especially when, the pace the AHL plays at. You got to know where you're going. You can't stop and think. So it's not shocking that that's happened, but it does need to be said that there are some bad moments that need to be cleaned up in his game and the defensive structure game of some of the rest of that team as well. But Victor Soderstrom has been basically what has helped move the needle for Tucson to get this ship at least going in a 50-50 direction. But let us switch sides here and go talk about the Colorado Eagles, who I feel like we haven't talked about in a really long time. So let's dive right in here. The Eagles seem to be wading into mediocrity right now. Just a 0.518, 51.8% points percentage that puts them 6th out of 9 in the Pacific Division. What gives for a team that we thought were turning things around just a few weeks ago?
Well, I know that we called last year's and even this year's Tucson Roadrunners squad the Jekyll and Hyde crew, but man, Colorado is really giving Tucson a run for their money regarding that title this season. They are very, the comedy and the tragedy masks in their 2-game sets that they play. So let me drop this stat on you. Since November 6th, the Eagles have split 7 of those 9 2-game sets. So when they play the same team twice over the weekend, or like what they did against Iowa in the Wednesday and Friday games, they have split 7 of those 9 2-game sets. And yeah, it's very like, it doesn't matter if it's Iowa, who's like towards the bottom of the Central Division, or Stockton. They got a win against Stockton, later in November. Tucson, let's talk about them. December 3rd and 4th, Colorado hosted the Roadrunners. They lost that first game 4-1, and then they ended up shutting them out, just completely blowing them out of the water, 4-0 the next game. And I was at that game. And Colorado suffocated Tucson so bad. It's literally a tale of two teams when you're looking at the Colorado Eagles here. And guess what? Pavel Francouz was in goal for both games. Yeah. So he was coming back from injury. He was on the LTIR rehab stint before going back up to back up Darcy Kemper up with the Avalanche. But yeah, granted, there's these factors that come into play, but we'll get to those here in a little bit. But basically, the Avalanche are 95% healthy. They've got a few guys, Ryan Murray, Mateau has been on IR since the beginning of the season pretty much. And, Jacob Mcdonald as well. But, maybe the Eagles can get somewhere now that the chemistry, is back. You've got Magna back. You've got Sherwood and all these other guys. I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, maybe they can start stringing some games together and actually, get a winning streak going on instead of, splitting every 2-game set that they have. Also, another stat to point out, Colorado is 97.93% in all situations PDO, 98.83% in estimated 5v5 PDO. I think the Eagles are due for some puck luck. And, with minimal impact that they've got going on with the taxi squads, they're bound to get some sooner than later, in my opinion.
Also, fun fact, do you want to guess what their rolling PDO is, which is a little off based on the holidays, but just throw out a number that you think could be their rolling 2-week estimated PDO.
96.5, 95.5, 94, 90. You keep pointing down.
92.78.
Oh,
like you have to try to that's. Yeah, so they're due for, and to be completely fair to them, that is regression from where they were. Hold on, what is the date of this? December 14th, when they were at 105.16, and then they've just been on a free fall since then. So it's going to go back. If you look at these charts over time, every year it's like,
Yep.
Yeah. So they're due back to go up in that direction. They are currently about 6 points from the lowest point anyone has hit this season. So they're due. You're correct.
Yeah.
But let's shift over to the individuals here. What does the taxi squad situation look like for Colorado compared to the other teams?
Well, AJ Heffel, or actually, who was it that said that Patrick Williams, actually, not AJ Heffel, he's a local Denver guy here, but Patrick Williams actually said that Mikhail Maltsev needs a personal shuttle bus with how much he gets shipped back and forth between the Avalanche and the Eagles, just, going back and forth on I-25. And it's true. The Eagles were assigned Cal Burke, who's 5th in team points, Maltsev, who's 4th in team points, and goaltender Hunter Miska. They all got transferred back to the Eagles, or assigned back to the Eagles on Wednesday from the Avalanche taxi squad. That was all 3 of their guys. They only had 3 guys on their taxi squad. All 3 of them got sent back to the Eagles. And then on Thursday, the Avs pulled Maltsev and Miska back to the taxi squad. which, they had, the Avs had a game at Ball Arena here in Denver against the Winnipeg Jets. So, okay. But yeah, so you've got Aunanen, you've got Trent Miner as your 1 and 2 right now in goal. Like I mentioned above, the team chemistry, I think, is important for the Eagles to reclaim here. Again, only Miska, only Maltsev on the taxi squad right now, just 2 guys out of an available 6. And, you can believe that the top 6 guys, Jason Megna, Kiefer Sherwood, Dylan Sekura, Martin Kaut, it's great to have him back, Sampo Ranta, and the surprising guy that signed an NHL deal on December 17th. It probably was for taxi squad purposes, but Cal Burke has been having a great season. He's ranked as a second line forward amongst forwards this season in the model. And even the consistency and the effort of Ryan Wagner. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that gives 100% every time he hits the ice. It's Ryan Wagner. And there's a reason that he's graded as a second line forward as well in the models rankings. So, but yeah, this forward core is going to be fine, at least the top 6. The bottom 6, well, yeah, they may have a little problem with, depth and youth. I know we've brought up Jean-Luc Foudy in the past. He's starting to get some momentum as becoming a little bit more of a playmaker. He's starting to rein in his speed and letting his brain catch up a little bit to his body. And, but yeah, with Maltsev up, so Maltsev, 23 games played in the AHL, 63rd percentile among forwards this year. That's good for a third line ranking. So I really don't think, Maltsev, he's a great piece to this Eagles squad, but just as a whole, looking at the totality of the chemistry that the Eagles have, I think removing Maltsev, and that's it for a taxi squad edition. I think that's definitely a blessing when they could just take a number more of guys.
Yeah, and that's 64th percentile too. This is the fun thing when you get to look at this, every week. You get to see like he is right on the cusp of a second line grade. Like he's probably, 1 secondary assist bounce off someone's ass away from a second line grade. And I think it's funny too. Like you said, just he got yo-yoed. I looked it up while you were talking there. Since December 12th, 3 times up and down. That's impressive. In 3 weeks, Miners taxi squad, Miners emergency loan, Miners emergency loan. And like, I really want to have someone who's like has NHL front office experience just to explain to me what the purpose of that is. Cause like he's going up and down, one day, the next day, 1 day, 2 days from now. Like, so you're not getting cap savings. He costs you nothing on the cap. So what are you doing? And I really want to know, cause it can't be good for him. But like teams do this kind of stuff all the time. And it's got to be maddening to, it's maddening to me watching it. And I'm, a random guy in New York with a Chicago Wolves jersey on. I have to imagine it's infuriating if you're the dude it's happening to. But let's talk about the defensive side of the puck here for the Eagles. How has Jacob Mcdonald been doing?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, he's on IR. So the Avalanche can't use him. The Eagles can't use him whenever you're hurt. Imagine that you can't play hockey games, or at least you're not supposed to. But a few games back, the Eagles played 3 out of their 6 starting defensemen from the Utah Grizzlies, and not great. Yeah. So splitting the weekend with Iowa, the way that they did, I tell you, they blew a lead with less than 30 seconds left against the Wild, ended up losing 3-2 in overtime, a little over a minute into the extra frame. And you can blame Marco Rossi for that. Rossi, 1932 in the third period, scored the goal. And then a little after 1 minute, like I think a minute and 12 seconds into overtime, Marco Rossi strikes again. So yeah, he had and here's the kicker, Sean, you'll get a kick out of this. So it was a power play goal. So the Eagles committed a penalty with less than 2 minutes left in the game, or at least I think I'll have to go back. I think it was a 2-minute minor, but the goal in overtime was a penalty shot. Marco Rossi on a penalty shot in overtime.
So that ref definitely got reprimanded the next day for calling penalties probably like they should have been.
Probably.
There is no way that the NHL or the AHL is like, yeah, call penalties with under 30 seconds left and call a penalty shot in overtime. Like, you would basically have to have, thrown your stick like a javelin at Marco Rossi to make that happen. I obviously did not see this play. I do remember Marco Rossi scoring the penalty shot in overtime, but I don't remember what caused the penalty. But yeah, that's, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like it when refs call the rule book like they're supposed to, but I can't confirm or deny that that's what happened in this case. But yeah, that's rough. That is one as a coach that will take you to an early grave for sure.
I need to check this real quick, because now I've got my juices turning as to what exactly happened in both of those games. So let's see here. Loading. AHL.com, the AHL.com. If you go to AHL.com, that's something completely different. Okay, penalties. Gabriel Fontaine tripping at 18:53 of the third. And yeah, I don't know.
Pretty hard penalty to get wrong. So
yeah, very true. So let's see here. And then, yeah, I am not quite sure what, I'm not quite sure. Oh, those are penalties again. Not quite sure what the penalty was that led to that penalty shot, but I digress. So obviously he got rained down. Eagles have done that again. Like it happened before this season as well. They got called for a penalty shot in overtime for wrangling somebody down. Like it's poor defense in overtime. And yeah, I don't need to go into that, but so they lost a heartbreaker 3-2 in overtime. The next game, they end up winning 3-2 in a shootout. So go figure. They still have those three defensemen, but Sean, their defensive environment is just a skosh below 77. And so that has to be shored up now that you don't have to rely. Hopefully, I think he's been reassigned to Utah, but Charles Edouard, Dasto, Nate Klerman, Luke Martin, all those guys are ECHL level players currently, top ECHL defensemen. So when you have half of those guys in your decor, hopefully for this weekend coming up, hopefully they can shore that up and get that defensive environment bumped up a few points.
And that's not a terrible one, but I mean, it's also tracked as a whole for the season, not as a rolling weekly thing, because
sure.
Oh God, I don't even want to try and do that as a rolling thing. Do you know how much of a pain in the ass that would be? Yeah. I mean, the league average is 70. I'm on it right now, 74.99. So you're right at league average, but it's also not a perfect measure. It's one that tries to estimate defensive environment, because Grand Rapids is slightly below league average at 23 or 73.72. And I don't believe that one, but
that's fair.
Here we are. So let's talk keys to the weekend here. I will cover Tucson's here. And we just did start hot. We talked, briefly, but also felt like made our point very clear with Tucson. You need to come out of the gates with energy, with mojo, be ready to play. You're really good when you do. When you don't, you kind of suck. So you need to bring, the Mr. Jekyll or the Dr. Jekyll and leave the Mr. Hyde at home. You need to be ready for this game. Actually, I don't know. I feel like Hyde is the one that would be more angry and aggressive at the beginning of the game. Maybe we need to rethink this metaphor. But you need to bring the good Tucson to play, the ready, prepared Tucson to start at the beginning of the game for both games, because, man, without it, you aren't looking good. Also, please no Josef Kozenes in net.
Oi. All right. Well, Colorado, I've got 3. First off, capitalize on those power play chances, for crying out loud. I really don't know what happened to the top 10 power play we saw earlier this year from Eagles, but they have struggled on the man advantage, and they have almost 5 power play chances per game, 4.8 power play chances per game. They're now at 23rd on the power play with a 17% conversion rate. If they can score 1 or 2 goals a night in those 5 chances, almost 5 chances that they have per game, they can start stringing together some games. I think to shore up the special teams, that's important. Speaking of which, my second point, the penalty kill. I mean, 26th in the league at a kill rate of 79%. When your power play and your penalty kill are both in the shitter, you got to call Cousin Eddie, because shitter's full. Time to empty that into the storm drain. If there's any weekend to get right on special teams, it's this one. And, I get it. The Avs the Avs penalty kill stinks too. They let in 2 power play goals from Alex DeBrincat the other night on the Chicago Blackhawks. So,
No, I will not have you slander Alex DeBrincat. That is a fine young man.
Okay. All right. Well, I just did because, he just made the Avs had a 2-0 lead and then they let the Blackhawks back into that game.
Yeah,
They-
but
they
you
sh-
got that Cale Makar goal in overtime. Does that not?
I mean, I don't care who's scoring that goal. Like, I jumped up and shouted. Like, it was so goddamn pretty. Oh my God. Like his edge work, his hands. I mean, Sean, did you see that live or did you?
He juked the cameraman for
He did. But anyway, let's get to our third point with the Eagles. Let's get some confidence for Eustace and Eustace for all. Eustace Anunen. The Colorado Netminders has strung together consecutive wins, 3 wins in 3 starts in early November. That's it this season. He's been as back and forth as the Eagles have been. And he's a middle of the road. He's 7-6-5. He needs to get more of those consecutive wins under his belt. 2.83 goals against average, which isn't terrible, but the save percentage 0.899. I mean, that's hovering around league average, if I'm not mistaken, right, Shawnee?
Sorry, repeat that percentage. I was
0.899. No, you're good.
Your league average is like usually in the low 900s. I want to say off the top of my head, it's like 903 right now.
Okay.
So he's still got some room there. We're talking about Trent Miner.
We're talking about Eustace.
Oh no, Eustace is right there because I'm looking at their goals against goals saved above average, and he is just under he is almost the directly most average goaltender in the league right now. So
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Trent Miner, a little bit worse. 0.864, maybe a lot of bit worse. 3.09 goals against average, 1-2-0 this season. So it makes you wonder. I mean, to get him above average couldn't hurt either, but it makes you wonder if they're going to start Anunen for both games against Tucson. So we'll see. We'll see. They should. I agree.
All right. Let's get the picks. Cece.
Yeah, let's do it. So Colorado finds a way. I'm going bullish on Colorado. Again, their PDO kind of a little low right now. I think they take both of these games. I predicted a Wolves sweep. I'm guessing getting my broom out and predicting some sweeps this weekend. It might come back to bite me like it has in the past, but I believe they take Saturday and Sunday's game against the Roadrunners.
Thank you, Dr. Ian Malcolm. I'm going to go Jekyll and Hyde here. Tucson Saturday, Colorado Sunday, because if we're going to Jekyll and Hyde for both teams need to Jekyll and Hyde.
Comedy and tragedy. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, the model, I get to present the model. I'm kind of excited about this. So remember, it's only a model, but Colorado is 54.8% favorite in both games. So,
I will say one thing. My model is absolutely not British. So I'm going to need you to stop that.
Yes, I know you and your Irish blood aren't too. I mean, I was more channeling Monty Python than anything. I mean, it's only a model. So there you go.
Fair. All right. Well, we are going to take a break here, and then we will get to the speed round. Not where CC and I do drugs, but where we pick all of the remaining games from the AHL weekend. If you're just here for Tucson and Colorado, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about these games that supposedly happen. You never know these days. But don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on social media where we do the memes, including And Eustace for All. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
All right, it's time to get our arms and our legs all stretched out because it is time for here we go. The speed round. All right. Bakersfield at Abbotsford Friday and Sunday. Sean, who do you got?
Moonshine is back for now. And weirdly, I'm going to take the Condors for a Friday night win. Abby Nux on Sunday.
I'm going to say lay it down, flip it, and reverse it. Abby on Friday, Bako on Sunday. Springfield at Belleville, Friday and Saturday. Sean.
Springfield has a lot of its players back, plus James Neal. Good chance for an elbow penalty, but I'll give the T-Birds the sweep here.
Okay. I'm going to say Belleville on Friday and Springfield on Saturday. Toronto at Laval Friday and Saturday. Shawnee.
Split. Toronto Friday, Laval Saturday.
I'm going to agree with that. Henderson at San Jose Friday and Saturday. Shawnee.
Without Logan Thompson, HSK just gets a split. I'm going to take San Jose on Friday.
Yeah, both games at home. I'm going to say, San Jose Friday, Henderson Saturday. Charlotte at Bridgeport Saturday and Sunday. Sean.
Double the affiliations, double the call-ups. Bridgeport and the Sound Tigers sweep.
Oof, definitely not double your fun. Good point. I still say Charlotte catches Bridgeport sleeping on Saturday, and then the Islanders on Sunday.
Nope.
Okay, Sound Tigers on Sunday. Wilkes-Barre Scranton at Hershey Saturday and Sunday. Sean.
Hershey takes Saturday, but is too exhausted Sunday to seal it. So I'm going to do the rare thing and pick Wilkes-Barre Scranton for at least one game.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Saturday and Hershey on Sunday. Let's move to Manitoba at Texas, Friday and Saturday, Central Division matchup. Sean.
I'm going to call a split here. I think Dobby's going to steal Texas's Friday game.
Okay. I am actually going to say that Manitoba wins 2 road games and goes with the sweep. I'm dusting off my broom again. Friday, Hershey at Syracuse. Sean.
Hershey, but an ugly one.
Rest or rust for Syracuse. I say the Crunch take it. Hartford at Rochester. Sean.
Rochester has more horses here. Amherst.
Jack Quinn is back after having mono. Rochester. Cleveland at Milwaukee. Sean, who do you got?
Cleveland isn't very good. Ads.
I'm going to pick Milwaukee as well. Stockton at San Diego. Sean.
I mean, if it happens, give me the Heat. I will take Stockton, who is hot.
Yeah, Goals have had a rough go at it with COVID-19 protocols. I'm going to say Stockton if this game occurs. Saturday, Rochester at Syracuse. Sean, who do you got?
Amherst.
Oh, yeah, Rochester. Rockford at Milwaukee. Shawnee.
Admirals get to play against Rockford with no Arvid Soderblom. They're going to set sail. Milwaukee.
I'm going to say Rockford, don't sleep on them. They have a way of weeking out games. I'm going to say Ice Hawks. Cleveland at Grand Rapids. Sean.
Does Cleveland know it's not in the Central Division anymore? Griffins.
Yeah, I'm going to say Grand Rapids as well. San Diego and Ontario, should this game happen again, Sean?
I'm going to flip it and go Gulls here. I haven't been as impressed with the Rain because a lot of moving pieces for them, but I'm going to say Gulls.
I'm going to go with the Rain, actually. All right, final 2 games on Sunday. Stockton on Ontario again. Shawnee.
Well, this doesn't have that Godzilla versus Kong feeling to it. I'll still take the Heat in this kind of round robin they're playing with the Gulls.
Yeah, I got it confused with San Diego and Ontario on Saturday. What do you meme exactly by that? Just kidding. I'm going to go with Stockton. Last but not least, Springfield and Ontario. Sean O'Brien, who do you have?
Marlies.
Okay. I'm going to be a contrarian and pick T-Birds. All right. 3.5 minutes. Not too shabby. There was a lot of games to cover, in spite
we got a lot of ground to make up.
We did. Yes, we did. And in spite of Providence and Lehigh Valley getting canceled, there's a lot of hockey happening this weekend, hopefully. So episode number 73, that's it for the show. Thanks for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. That's all the podcasts you can listen to populating on a list. And enjoy. And of course, with all those choices, we appreciate you tuning in to the premier AHL podcast, according to, I have one right next to me, the Amazon Echo. Yes.
If you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back Tuesday morning to talk about all these games that did or did not happen. And if they didn't happen, I guess we're just going to have some quiet time. I'm not really sure. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, click the like on the button on the video, little thumbs up, comment on what you thought of the episode. Doing all of these things helps other people find the show. Your reviews help us improve the show. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So you can make music for you too. Cece, where can the people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley. Once again, you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Majority of my tweets are about hockey, but you throw a little pro wrestling in there, you throw a little music take, film take, and you get the holistic picture of who CC Hockley is. So if it keeps me interested, hopefully it's not going to be bullshit for you. Go give CC Hawk a follow on Twitter. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresshockey.com. Enough about me. Shawnee, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81, where I documented the blizzard in Alexandria that happened with my dog Parker. You can find all of my stats work, including the PDO things, that map thing, some point shares, gizmos, at Tableau at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. CC, take us home.
That will do it for episode number 73 of the Calder Farmstead AHL podcast. For Sean O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley. We've got some COVID booster shots to go sleep off, so thank you for tuning in to the show. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.